You know, Matt Taibbi wrote a book called Hate Inc. I don't know if you ever read it. He basically makes the argument that Rachel Maddow is essentially Bill O'Reilly, that they're the same person.
The U.S. government is going to have to either unwind from all of those contracts, or Elon Musk's companies are going to have to unwind from him. This is an untenable reality in national security terms, now that we know what we know about Elon Musk.
And what is that? What do we know?
That he endorsed President Trump.
That he's a genius?
They're very good at making enemies, and then when the enemies they've made treat them poorly, they are shocked.
Ever wondered what happens when Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly join forces to take aim at Rachel Maddow? Spoiler alert, it's pure chaos. Truth bombs fly, and there are more "did she really just say that" moments than you can count. Picture a podcast crashing into a news debate with zero warning and maximum fallout. Maddow never saw it coming, and honestly, neither will you. Buckle up. This is going to get messy.
From Joy Reid's firing at MSNBC continues. She signed off from the show for the last time last night. I mean, you know, we are going to miss her in our own special way. And her now former colleague, Rachel Maddow, never one to not be the center of attention if she can find a way of injecting herself into a story, decided to deliver a monologue aimed directly at her bosses. And this is the theme of what we saw.
This saga feels like a political cage match with no rules and no gloves. And guess who's taking the biggest hits? Rachel Maddow. You know her, the self-crowned queen of cable news chaos, armed with a headset, a stack of PowerPoint slides, and a gift for turning the smallest political bump into a full-blown eruption.
See Rachel Maddow calling for Elon Musk contracts to be taken away? It's the most bananas thing ever.
The Defense Department and NASA are going to need a new arrangement for all their rockets and for all the multi-billion-dollar contracts Elon Musk's companies have with the U.S. government.
That literally one of the greatest geniuses in human history. A guy who's simultaneously landing rockets, not just shooting them, but landing them, and having them getting caught by robots in the sky. Then you have Tesla, then you have Starlink, then you have the Boring Company. I mean, the guy's simultaneously running all these different
I bet Rachel Maddow's
But this time, the tidal wave that slammed into her carefully built MSNBC fortress didn't come from another pundit or a snarky late-night segment. It came from two unexpected forces joining for a takedown: Joe Rogan's No Rules podcast jungle and Megyn Kelly's razor-sharp media courtroom.
And bad. No matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it.
And I do not defend it. It feels indefensible. And I do not defend it. Okay, she really is one of the most, maybe, is she the most annoying people on television. She oozes sanctimony and self-righteousness. And here's the real capper. She took her boss's faces and rubbed them in shit last night. That's what
First up, Joe Rogan, the guy whose podcast feels like a backyard barbecue where everyone's welcome, but the truth gets grilled hotter than anything coming off a Texas pit. He's not your typical news anchor. Rogan's a mix of the curious bro next door and a relentless fact hunter with the stamina of a marathon runner. When a story hits his radar, it's not just a whiff of smoke he's chasing, it's Sherlock Holmes discovering someone torched the whole town.
For whatever reason, hardcore lesbians, when they want to be taken seriously, they dress like a man. And they dress like a man in a business outfit. Look how she dresses. She puts a suit jacket on. I'm serious. I'm here for the meeting. I'm here to explain things to you people.
Rachel Maddow gets paid $100,000 a day. Like, to me, I don't know. That's a lot of money.
Good for her.
That's a good...
You buy a lot of man.
Now, Mandow's recent reporting, and that's being generous, was more like storytelling with the occasional pit stop at reality. She tossed out some bold claims that had the political world buzzing, laced with her usual flair for turning everyday news into end-of-the-world headlines. Enter Joe Rogan, the perfect antidote to cable news theatrics. His version of pull up a chair comes with a side of cold, hard skepticism. Rogan didn't just challenge her narrative, he bulldozed it. Watching him break down Maddow's dramatics was like seeing a sledgehammer taken to a glass house. He peeled back her exaggerated scenarios one by one, armed with nothing more than calm disbelief and that signature deadpan delivery. "You sure about that?" he seemed to ask, never shouting, just letting the facts speak louder than any MSNBC monologue. One standout moment came when he targeted her most theatrical claim, the kind that sounds like it came straight from a late-night dive into conspiracy forums. Rogan countered it with real data, lining her wildfire panic against a backdrop of actual evidence. It wasn't just a takedown. It was a reality check for anyone lulled by her usual suspense-laden delivery.
Rachel Maddow trying to say what pains us the most is not what happens to us, is a lie too. The reason she won't give the $4 million or the $2 million to save any of those jobs, and she doesn't have to cut him a check. She could actually just take it out of her current salary. You know why she won't? Because she's got bills to pay and her lifestyle is too important to her. Rachel Maddow currently, according to my calculation, and I'm sure it's much more, has a $10 million penthouse, I say, on the Upper East Side, where her neighbors are Jodie Foster and Barry Manilow, etc.
But it wasn't just about the facts, it was the vibe. Rogan, with his laid-back charm and I'm just a guy asking questions energy, made the whole exchange feel like he was inviting Maddow to the cool kids table, only to casually let her know she didn't make the cut. No yelling, no cheap shots, just a steady, merciless unwrapping of her claims until all that remained was the hollow shell of overblown theatrics. And while Rogan played the role of the friendly giant with a wrecking ball, Megyn Kelly was the hawk circling above, waiting for the perfect moment to strike with precision. Her background in law and primetime news gave her a different edge, the ability to take a seemingly confident claim and quietly unravel it by pointing out the small, easily missed details that scream incompetence or worse, intentional spin. Kelly didn't come in loud, she didn't need to. Her critique was calm, calculated, and razor-sharp. Where Rogan delivered the blunt impact, Kelly performed a slow surgical dissection, like a forensic analyst walking through the crime scene while everyone else was still trying to figure out what happened. She took aim at Maddow's ethical contortions, exposing how slick commentary can slip by as news when it conveniently leaves out the facts that don't fit the story.
About what did Rachel Maddow ever apologize for telling everybody that if you get the COVID vaccine, you're never going to get COVID? The virus stops with you.
No, never.
Never.
Yeah.
No one ever. It's just, it was not true at the time. There was no evidence to support it at the time. It's pure propaganda. And she said it, the Russiagate hoax. For 3 fucking years, they said that he was Putin's toy.
Yes.
And that Putin had him compromised. The Steele dossier.
The Steele dossier was completely fabricated by a lawyer at Perkins Coie, who was paid by the Clinton campaign.
Kelly's approach was a masterclass in the art of calm demolition, smiling as she quietly dismantled Maddow's credibility. She took those flashy, bombastic claims and zoomed in on the fine print, the omissions, the warped context, the blurred lines between journalism and performance. One standout moment came when Kelly rolled out a highlight reel of Maddow's worst leaps from reported facts to pure speculation. There was no need for shouting or theatrics. Kelly's steady, composed tone made it clear. Maddow wasn't just stretching the truth, she was doing full-on yoga with it. Each precise point Kelly made chipped away at the foundation of Maddow's narrative, leaving it looking like a house of cards built on quicksand. What made Kelly's takedown sting was the silent question hanging in the air. If Maddow's reporting were put on trial, would it survive cross-examination? Kelly's answer, delivered with surgical clarity, was a firm no. Maddow's towering rhetoric collapsed under the weight of legal reasoning and journalistic standards, as Kelly methodically explained that turning a story into a thriller doesn't make it accurate or ethical. And this is where things got really interesting. On their own, Rogan and Kelly are sharp critics, but together, their combined takedown turned into a perfect storm.
See Caitlyn Jenner teasing Mark Cuban about transitioning?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Caitlyn Jenner's based.
Yeah, but that is actually hilarious when someone who has transitioned is teasing Mark Cuban about transitioning.
I mean, it is weird how much he looks like Rachel Maddow. I mean, like he's using the same glasses. Did he,
I don't know why
did he
he
go
looks
Klepto
like
and steal their glasses or something? Because they look exactly the same.
He's worth a lot of money. Why would he buy those stupid glasses? He gets some
That's
cool
not
ass
flattering.
glasses.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I'm serious because I don't even care what I look like. I'm just wearing these glasses because I'm intelligent.
But why did it look exactly like Rachel Maddow's glasses?
That's like what they probably sent him. He doesn't stick to the narrative. Here's the glass.
Rogan's relentless fact-checking, fueled by his laid-back, conversational style, collided with Kelly's sharp, poised dissection to create a two-front assault that left Maddow's usual defenses gasping for air. Picture Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly not as 2 separate media figures, but as a tag team in a political commentary smackdown. Only their arena is the chaotic landscape of modern media, and their opponent is Rachel Maddow's carefully constructed house of cards. What makes this takedown so brutally effective isn't just that both came for her, it's how they did it. Like two chefs cooking the same dish with completely different ingredients, their approaches couldn't be more distinct, yet the result was a flavor bomb. Rogan, with his no-frills, guy-next-door energy, brought a raw grassroots edge to the critique. He's the uninvited guest who walks into the polished studio, holds up a mirror, and says, "Why are you selling snake oil and calling it news?" His strength doesn't lie in speeches or theatrics. It's in his unfiltered, relentless search for truth. There's something oddly powerful about seeing the guy who chats about elk hunting and quantum theory suddenly tear into a political narrative for being a circus act. He's not there to play nice or wrap his criticism in politeness. He's there to call it like it is, and with his signature, "Are you kidding me?" delivery, he makes Maddow's dramatic claims look less like journalism and more like a poorly written skit.
Also learn a lot if you watch MSNBC. I don't know if you're aware, but their reaction, you're not gonna be able to believe this, to the Friday Oval Office situation was to claim that Trump is weirdly and problematically tied to Russia. I'll give you just a little taste of Rachel Maddow's monologue on it last night.
Imagine if a foreign adversary, imagine if the Putin government somehow could just do a thought experiment. Imagine they could somehow exert control or influence over the government of the United States. What do you think the Putin government would have the US government do if he could control it? What kind of headlines would you expect to see about the operations of our government under that kind of a scenario? And what would you expect the news out of the Oval Office and the White House to look like on a day like today?
Fake.
Megyn Kelly, on the other hand, is Rogan's polar opposite, and that's exactly where the magic kicks in. While Rogan charges in with raw instinct and blunt force, Kelly steps onto the same battlefield with surgical precision. She doesn't just challenge Maddow's hyperbole, she dissects it, calmly and clinically, revealing the skeleton of ethical lapses and journalistic sleight of hand underneath. Kelly's method feels less like commentary and more like a high-stakes courtroom drama unfolding in slow motion. Every word Maddow utters is put under the microscope, not just for accuracy, but for motive. Kelly doesn't simply say, "That's wrong." She lays out exactly why it's wrong, why it matters, and how it undermines the trust viewers place in the media. And she does it all with a composed, almost surgical calm that makes it feel like you're watching a grandmaster in a chess match, slowly cornering an opponent who doesn't realize they've already lost. When these two styles collide, Rogan's conversational sledgehammer and Kelly's laser-focused scalpel, it becomes a masterclass in media takedowns. Rogan smashes through the surface, exposing blatant holes and jaw-dropping inaccuracies. Then Kelly steps in, calmly peeling back the remaining layers to reveal something deeper, that Maddow's narrative isn't just factually weak, it's engineered to manipulate, to stir emotion, to push a pre-packaged conclusion. Together, they don't just tear down the message, they expose the machinery behind it.
Here's Rachel Maddow with her typical sanctimonious, I'm sorry to have to bring you this, but here's the latest of these terrible people. This is what happened with these disgusting opponents. Watch. Here she is.
This is him today twice throwing something that looks like what is politely called the Roman salute. And maybe this is not what he meant when he did it. Who among us knows what is in the hearts of men? But the Roman salute is a thing. And that is what it looks like Elon Musk was doing, which added a nice blood-curdling chill to the day for many people today. He does it twice. And again, maybe that's not what he meant. Maybe he doesn't know what that is. That happened today.
That happened today. Who among us knows what's in the hearts of men? Well, who among us does?
There's one unforgettable moment where Rogan catches a glaring inconsistency in Maddow's timeline, a classic wait that doesn't add up call out. But instead of letting it slide, Kelly jumps in and connects the dots, explaining how the inconsistency isn't just a slip. It's part of a broader strategy designed to stir outrage and keep viewers glued to the screen. Together, they form the ultimate tag team. Rogan punches holes in the story, and Kelly fills those gaps with a sharp, damning critique of journalistic integrity. It's the media equivalent of a 1-2 punch that leaves Maddow staggering. And here's the kicker. She had no ground to stand on. The combined force of their takedown backed her into a corner with no way out. It was like watching someone try to run a marathon in roller skates on ice. Unsteady, slow, and inevitably headed for a fall. No amount of spin could save her once Rogan and Kelly came at the narrative from two different angles, both aimed at cutting through the noise and exposing the truth. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Social media lit up like a 4th of July fireworks show. Clips of the takedown spread like wildfire. Memes exploded across platforms. Hashtags started trending, and an army of online commentators jumped in, keyboards blazing, to join the chorus.
I tell you, that was a disgusting display by both women on the set. I would vote for Ron DeSantis over Joe Biden any day of the week. I've made that clear, okay? I tell you what my bias is. When I sat across from Ron DeSantis, I pressed him. I pressed him on the weaknesses in his arguments, things that he said that were inconsistent, positions he had that would fall apart potentially if you really, drilled down, and he stood his own. That's what a journalist does. That's what your obligation is as a member of the media. You failed, Rachel Maddow. You failed. I don't care how much I give you, $30 million a year. You're not worth 30 cents. That was an embarrassment. You fell down on the job. You embarrassed yourself and your network, and you ceded the entire discussion to a dishonest broker who set us down this disgusting path that we're now on, where everybody denies everybody's the real president. Shame on.
Meanwhile, Maddow went radio silent. Not a tweet, not a comment, not even one of her signature eyebrow raises. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels less like strategy and more like someone caught red-handed, hoping if they freeze, no one will notice. And that silence, it speaks volumes. It's a stark reminder that when media figures cross the blurry line between commentary and manipulation, the consequences go far beyond personal reputation. They strike at the core of journalism's most valuable currency, trust. Maddow's loyal audience now faces a dilemma. Do they rally behind her, brushing off Rogan and Kelly as biased critics? Or do they start asking the uncomfortable questions? Have we been misled? What else have we missed? For the average viewer, this wasn't just drama, it was a wake-up call. A reminder that watching news commentary isn't a passive act. It requires critical thinking, skepticism, and the courage to question even the voices we trust most. Because if Joe Rogan's direct, no BS fact-checking combined with Megyn Kelly's sharp ethical analysis can dismantle one of cable news's biggest names, imagine what could happen if more people approached media with the same mindset. So where does this leave Maddow? Will she pivot, tone down the drama, and recalibrate her approach? Or will she double down on the sensationalism and wait for the storm to pass? The media world is watching, popcorn in hand, because if history tells us anything, these moments either humble or transform. And sometimes, they do both.
Russia, 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 Russia.
Would have been nice to win the election. Didn't. Okay. Time to save the country.
She is stomach turning, isn't she? It could be. You're in danger. What are you going to do with your 10 houses and your tens of millions? My God, you better start preparing. You should start getting the medication kits and the food right now. Store away. Trump is coming for you, Rachel. Jeez, could be fun. Could be fun. Oh yeah, who would ever know what it's like for MSNBC to be in the opposition? Oh wait, Russia, 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 Russia. We know your trick, Madam Pirate. When you're in the opposition, your nobility in your efforts to save the country, you fucking lie. That's what you do. You lie every day. And then you play the victim. What a ridiculous person.
This takedown wasn't just entertainment, it was a lesson. A reminder that it's time to raise the standard for what we accept as news, to question the storytellers, and to hold accountable those who speak into microphones with influence. Because when Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, unintentionally paired but powerfully aligned, can expose a media heavyweight like Rachel Maddow, it signals something bigger, a shift in how media accountability unfolds in the digital age. And make no mistake, this is far from over. The best clips, the sharpest analysis, and the next moves in this unfolding drama are still rolling in. This isn't just a takedown, it's the start of a reckoning. a new kind of conversation that's shaking up the media world one brutal critique at a time. The synergy between Rogan and Kelly may not have been planned, but it was devastating. Rogan called out the misinformation in a way that was raw and relatable to his massive audience. Then Kelly followed up with a polished intellectual takedown that gave the entire exchange weight and authority. It was like watching a championship fight. Rogan landing the jab, Kelly delivering the knockout punch. Maddow, who usually thrives on controlling the narrative, suddenly found herself outmaneuvered by a tag team that didn't even share a stage. The result? Silence. No counterattack. No clarification. Just the eerie quiet of a once solid media empire starting to wobble. Meanwhile, social media went into overdrive. Clips went viral, memes took over timelines, and fans, many of them stunned, began to question whether Maddow's fortress of spin had finally met its match.
And no one, even someone calling herself a journalist, will even bother to challenge you on it. And instead, they'll joke about how they're going to go shop for a new wardrobe, which, by the way, Rachel Maddow does desperately.
Rogan and Kelly's unexpected alliance proved something crucial. Media accountability no longer lives solely within the walls of traditional journalism. The power to challenge spin, expose exaggeration, and call out overreach now comes from the most unexpected corners. This was a collision of podcast rawness and seasoned journalistic precision, and it hit hard. It's a wake-up call. Don't swallow every headline, every dramatic revelation, or every tear-soaked monologue without a healthy dose of skepticism. Because if Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, two voices from completely different media worlds, can cut through the smoke, maybe it's time the rest of us do the same. So what happens next? Will Maddow recalibrate and shift gears? Will she double down on the dramatics or quietly retreat into her usual echo chamber of political pontification? Time will tell. But one thing is certain, this showdown just changed the rules of who gets to hold the mic in America's messy media circus. And for those still wondering how two media figures so far apart could team up in spirit to take down one of the most polished political commentators in the game, here's your answer. Sometimes it takes a podcast king and a courtroom queen to expose the emperor's new clothes. The takeaway? Don't mess with Joe Rogan's facts or Megyn Kelly's logic. When those two collide, even the loudest voices can be drowned out by the quiet force of truth. This wasn't just a moment. It was media magic no one expected but everyone needed. And the story? It's far from over.